Greetings and salutations. Hello, how are you? My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named Query and Schultz program here on ISC Sports Network. And Derek, this is episode number 58. Jack Lambert, right?
Yeah, you as a front-running Steelers fan in the 70s,
right.
that'd be a big one. Locally, I thought of Gary Brackett.
Of course, Gary Brackett.
And somebody much more my generation. Actually, this kind of bridged our generations. A great player who we lost too early. Derek Thomas was number 58 as well.
Not,
dominant
by the way,
player.
not Derek Thomas of the News. Channel 6.
Also a legend, but in a
Also
different
a legend,
field.
yes. Derek Thomas from the Kansas City Chiefs, who tragically was lost, Derek, if you recall, in an auto accident. And do you remember where he was headed?
No.
He was headed across. It was a terrible weather day in Missouri, and he was on his way to see the Rams play, the Ram game, in the NFC Championship game, and the greatest show on turf team.
Rams-Bucks.
Is that what it was?
So you know that because you were covering that Rams team.
I covered right after that Rams team, yes.
Okay.
I came right after they won the Super Bowl and covered it through when they then lost to New England.
Gotcha.
But yes, it was a playoff game. It was during that playoff run. I don't remember if it was the NFC Championship game, but out of Alabama, great player. Speaking of great player, there were some great plays in not also good weather conditions for the Colts in San Francisco against the 49ers. I thought it was interesting, Derek, because this was one of those games that all the forecast was this is going to be terrible, sloppy, run the ball. Nobody can even think about passing the ball. And both teams tested that a little bit and did go through the air. But when it came down to it, the Colts made the plays they had to make, man. I thought it was a good Colts performance.
Yeah, a lot more points than I was expecting, especially with the way things were early on. But what I was impressed by, Jake, was that start was a disaster. It could not have gone worse the first couple of minutes where you literally fumble on your first touch and you give up a 75-yard, 80-yard, whatever it was, touchdown drive on their first possession, and suddenly you're in a 9-0 hole. But really, after that, the Colts thoroughly controlled that game. Like,
right.
you didn't feel like they were absolutely going to win it
They did.
Until the Michael Pittman touchdown. But you never really felt like they were going to lose it, right?
Well, every time, and part of this was, this happened on both sides of the ball, obviously, but every time that San Francisco was in position to try to either stabilize or get things back, they turned the ball over.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of that is
4 turnovers.
Part of that is the Colts were in the right spot. I mean, Xavier Rhodes was in the right spot at the right and made a great play. Other times it was just, you're out there with an oiled pig, right? In terms of the football, I mean, it was a messy evening. I don't know that it was as bad as people thought it was going to be, but nonetheless, I think the weather, Derek, was just not bad enough, if that makes sense, that we can say this was a legitimate football game where the Colts legitimately made football plays to win it. This was not the Colts in Buffalo in that horrific snowstorm where all bets were off.
Yeah,
right.
no, I agree with you. They did make it a game. I do wonder how much the conditions really played into the Colts' hands, notably in their secondary, because you have like Sendejo and people like that back there, but they weren't tested because A, the conditions, and B, I've always been low. Garoppolo, to me, is the definition of mediocre. Like, he's just he's not bad. He's just not any good. And I don't really feel like the Niners had cohesion and a plan. Like, the Colts offense clearly had a plan of what they wanted to do. And Reich wanted to test the deep ball and keep that going despite the conditions. And also, of course, lean on the run game, which he did. And Jonathan Taylor with another big game. But even through kind of the ebbs and flows of this game, the Colts just felt like they were more organized and coherent than the Niners were just kind of scattershot. When the Niners were good, they were really good.
Right.
They had that 71-second touchdown drive, and they were running bootleg stuff, and they had things wide open. But then, Shanahan would kind of go the other way, or they'd make a critical mistake. And for the most part, I thought the Colts avoided that. And it was a very solid performance and a critical win.
I think, Derek, and by the way, a lot to get to today, including we will talk about the Pacers season opener and the NBA season getting underway, college football as well, but focusing on the Colts from their win in San Francisco. I think, Derek, one of the things that Frank Reich discovered, and whether or not this was intentionally by design, I don't know, but it kept working, was, you know what? When you've got conditions like that in a wet, soggy field by the third, fourth quarter in particular, advantage always receiver, because the receiver knows where the receiver is going. And the secondary is reacting. So why not, when you have guys on their heels anyway, and it's just it's hard enough to run backwards, but to do it in mud and slog and everything else, there was such a disadvantage for defensive backs that creates a natural tendency to reach and grab to make up for. I think Frank Reich and Carson Wentz thought, you know what, one of the plays we're going to put in our arsenal here, we're just going to air it out and rack up defensive penalties.
Yeah.
Rack up pass interference and just keep moving the ball that way, and it worked.
It did. I don't know how many they ended up with. At least 3, right? Maybe 4.
In big moments.
On the night. And all of the scoring drives, I think, included a DPI at some point to kind of help that drive. Yeah, defensive pass interference. Right. I thought Carson Wentz got away with some stuff. There was a series where he had 3 straight bad throws. And the third bad throw ended up actually being a DPI, which was rewarded into a first down.
Pass interference.
But I do think that the biggest compliment that I could give Wentz is that, and I said this on Twitter last night, very rarely had he had a throw this year where immediately mentally I was like, oh no, danger. And he had a couple of those last night, but I like the aggression. You know, I would rather be aggressive than non-aggressive.
I'm telling you, he's a good quarterback. He's playing well.
Yeah, he's done well.
He is playing to the level that justifies Chris Ballard selecting him as the guy that they wanted to run the offense.
There are 2 things that he brings to the table that the Colts haven't had in a while, and these are his 2, by far, his most exciting attributes. 1, his ability and willingness to throw deep, and 2, his mobility, which we're finally seeing now because of the ankles. We weren't really able to see that in the beginning weeks of the season, and those are 2 real weapons for the Colts. I don't want to do this week-to-week thing. Carson Wentz is great. Carson Wentz sucks. Carson Wentz is great. I do think that what's weird to me about Carson Wentz, Jake, is that you have people kind of locked in on the extremes, and even non-Philly people, like they want him to make a mistake so they can go berserko on him.
Right.
And I thought it was just a Philadelphia thing, but it's like almost like a national media thing. Like they really want Wentz to be bad, and he's not. He's not bad.
Okay, he is a top 12 quarterback. Right?
I'd put him in that range. With how he's played so far this season, yeah.
You know, and that is assisted by the fact, Derek, that he has a top 5 running back behind him.
Oh, easily. I think he has a top 3 running back right now.
You know, what Jonathan Taylor does really well, and it's interesting to me because he did not do this really well when he first got in the league. If you recall, I remember Jonathan Taylor – the first couple of games, Derek, we're like, what is this guy doing? He's getting the ball, and he's just, like, hesitating and not going anywhere. Or he's just running straight into the block, like he looks like Trent Richardson. It's almost as if the first 4 to 6 games in the career as a professional player for Jonathan Taylor, he was learning and processing and memorizing where all of the lanes open. And those early games of seeing him getting a handoff, taking 2 steps and almost looking shell-shocked, are paying off because whether this is true or not, it seems as though he was scanning over like brrr, brrr, and then recording what every defense looks like.
Yeah.
So that in his future, when he got the ball, it was there it is. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, what's always been fascinating to me about Jonathan Taylor is that you're right. I mean, the first half of the season, he sucked.
He's able to find lanes and then go.
He was out of his depth the first half of last year.
Right.
He got benched
It was crazy.
during that Ravens game. But when things click, Jake, they clicked big time.
And what he does now, as well as anybody in football, is takes the handoff and after his first initial step, assesses where the lane is, and he's able to adjust his trajectory instantly with no drop off of speed.
He always makes the right cut, period.
Yeah.
And he can do everything. He can be a between the tackles guy. He can be an in-space guy. He can catch. I mean, it reminds me a lot of what they had with the young Edgerrin James, where there was nothing that Edge couldn't do, really.
Right.
And most of the stuff that he did at at least a very good, if not an elite level. And you hope to see that continued growth. I mean, that's high praise to immediately say in the middle of year 2 that he's going to be Edgerrin James, but I think the trajectory is there for him to get there.
Let me tell you one probably unpopular opinion. If I'm Chris Ballard, and I'm not, but if I was, one of the things that I would very seriously contemplate when you consider the price tag that is going to come with him, do you let Quentin Nelson walk?
It's a more complicated question than I think people are making it out to be. Chris Reed has played well, and that has helped kind of solidify the line. But then again, part of that has been the regression of Mark Lewinsky over the past couple of years. So I think you're still thinking to yourself, we're not really set at guard. And that's not much of a sample size for Reed either. But overpaying for non-impact positions.
Correct.
Do you want to do that?
Unless you move him to left tackle.
That's a question.
Unless he becomes your left tackle. And who knows. But at the left guard position, only because of the money, and I realize they're way under the cap and everything else. Fine. But there are other areas, correct. If you're going to end up having to lock in Taylor and Pittman, and you already locked in Leonard, but other young players.
And Braden Smith.
Yep. How much do you want to invest in Quentin Nelson?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question here moving forward. Now, I can't imagine you would let him walk for nothing. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But they have, Derek, a very good young core.
I agree.
Between, obviously, at the running back, receiver, even tight end, Mo Alley Cox, I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's a nice player.
He is.
And look, with the Quentin Nelson thing, where we sit today, I think there's a 0% chance that he doesn't get extended, and that's less of a Ballard thing and more of an Irsay thing. I don't think there's any way that Irsay would allow it for him not to get extended. Remember what a big deal he made, and you're going to be Hannah.
You're going to be Hannah, man. Quentin, dog. Yeah.
You're going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I just don't think that he would. And he's kind of become a fan favorite.
He is.
And really, it's weird to say this about a guard. He's one of the faces of the franchise right now.
There's no doubt about it.
And
he's a wonderful talent. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you kind of play into all of that.
Look, I think Quentin Nelson is a fabulous player who is the best all-terrain vehicle, big truck that you can have, and you're driving it in Miami.
The good news is, though, and we've talked about this, the Colts being good at the impact in the non-impact positions and not good anywhere else. What they really needed going into this season they needed playmakers to emerge. And it feels like with Taylor and Pittman, they finally have. We already knew Darius Leonard was one, and he punches the ball out every single week, it feels like. But at the very least, those guys are starting to emerge for them.
Okay, so that leads us into which of those guys, for example, is going to be our Indiana Members Credit Union Player of the Week. We will get to that. We will also discuss what else happened around the NFL and how that could affect the Colts moving forward, coming off their big win in the, what was it called, Derek? Meteorological Bomb River or something?
The Meteorological River? What was the river term?
Aerospace river.
Bomb cyclone.
Atmosphere river.
Atmospheric.
Atmospheric river, guys. It's going to be rainy. Okay, well, all of that was there, and the Colts still got to win. So more on it coming up next, Query and Schultz.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, alongside a very dry Jay Query. I'm a very dry Derek Schultz because we weren't submitted to those conditions last night in Santa Clara. I got in a pregame argument about you're not a real fan if you don't like this weather. I'm looking at the fans in the stands, and their tarps or ponchos are flapping in the wind, and they're soaking wet, and I'm thinking to myself, I would never do whatever you want to do. I would never pay money to subject myself to that for 4 hours.
I had some idiot once go on, like, almost borderline stalk me on Twitter for 6 months about how I hate Indianapolis and I'm not a true Hoosier because I don't tailgate at Colts games.
Wow.
Okay. To each their own, right?
Do whatever you want to do, but, like, this whole, like, you're not a real fan. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to name my first two-born sons Peyton and Colt. If you want to do that, go ahead and show what a big fan you are. I'm not going to do that.
Well, you don't have two sons.
Well, yeah, that's true.
If you did and you needed more bedrooms, if you had kids because you wanted to name after everybody in the Ring of Honor, for example, you would need a bigger house with bigger bedrooms.
Yes.
And if so, what better thing to do than to turn to your friends at Bailey and Wood, right?
Yes, if you need a house, you should call Mike Wood and his team at Bailey and Wood. Not that they're going to sell you a house, but they're going to help you get pre-approved, which is what you're going to need.
Of course.
Especially in a competitive market like this where the houses go like that. I feel like we snap a lot on the show now. Like, I instinctively just want to snap. This is the second or third time I think that I've snapped.
Nobody can hear
show.
your snaps, though. That was
that.
solid, yeah.
That one actually stung a little bit. That one hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not going to be stung by mortgage rates. They're still very, very
Nice.
low. So if you want to refinance as well, that's an option for you with Bailey and Wood Financial Group. BAWFG, so Bailey and Wood
FG.
Financialgroup.com.
BAWFG.
855-350-HOME. Also, if you still like to do business the old school way, like my dad, he won't do anything online or anything like that. He wants to show up in person.
Smart, yeah.
13 branch locations in Indiana for Bailey and Wood Financial Group. So chances are, regardless of where you are, there is an office nearby you.
BAWFG.com.
You got it.
Derek, in talking about the Colts win in San Francisco, before we get to our player of the game, let's talk about this. What it means for the division. The Tennessee Titans now are next on the schedule. Colts still find themselves. I mean, the good thing is this at least keeps them within striking distance because they're 2 back in the division, 2.5 if you consider the fact that they've already played Tennessee once, right?
Yeah, they lost.
And so 2.5 essentially. Bottom line is absolute must-win coming up. I watched Tennessee yesterday just dismantle Kansas City.
Oh.
I'm telling you, they have figured out exactly how to use Derrick Henry. And in the passing game, in the running game, and in all areas, their defense has really tightened up. I think Tennessee is really, really good.
Yeah, I always say, and you love this word, that running back is a fungible position, which is true. But when you have a weapon like that, that's so – no offense to Jonathan Taylor or anybody else, he's so much better than the second-best running back in the league. I mean, he is an unbelievable
He just when he gets the ball –
dominant talent.
Have you seen and I don't know where it is. I think the Colts use it. Have you seen the caricature, like, mascot thing of the huge, muscular, white horse colt wearing the Colt jersey?
Yeah, the weird, like, almost like –
I don't know what it's from, but it's it's just this big, strong,
it's like the erotic novel Colts logo. It's always been very strange to me.
What the hell are you talking about?
I don't know,
the
like,
erotic
it's weird.
novel.
Like, we almost like.
And we're talking about the Colts, and you're turning to.
Let's give them big.
You're into Danielle
muscles,
Steele and 50 Shades of Grey here.
This is a little much here. He's like licking his chops, like foaming at the mouth, like rippling muscles. I'm a Colts. I'm just like, whoa.
No,
thank you.
I'm not going to lie to you. It never ceases to amaze me how easily navigatable it is, if that's a word, to get into the depths of your neurosis.
You don't think that Colts thing is like almost like hypersexualized? It's like it makes me uncomfortable.
I don't know.
It's weird to me.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Clearly you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
a weird Colt thing.
Like everybody on the field is a Colt, and Derrick Henry is a Clydesdale.
Mm-hmm.
He just looks bigger, stronger. His strides are more regal than everyone in the – I mean, it really is amazing. When he gets a pitch out and he's coming around the corner, he is the first running back I've ever seen where the term running downhill feels appropriate.
Yeah. How about this? Glass half empty. The Titans look good. It's clearly going to take double-digit wins now to win the division. Remember a couple of weeks ago we were like, hey, it was 9-8 after they were coming off the loss of the Jets. 9-8 going to do it? And you've dug yourself a hole, right? So if you lose this game Sunday, the division's pretty much out the window at that point. Glass half full, the AFC wildcard race with the disintegration of the Chiefs, and you look around the middle of the AFC right now, Jake, who's good?
Well, that's the thing,
mean,
right?
Cincinnati, are we really supposed to take Cincinnati super seriously right now?
Playoff, okay, teams right now that you look at and you say, that looks like a playoff team. That looks like a team that has figured some things out. And, right now is the time in the year where you're starting to figure out who people are.
I think the Chargers I would look at as
the
one.
Chargers, I would agree. Okay.
We're talking wild card, right?
Just in general. I mean, one way or the other.
Because I think you have to put the Bills and Titans up here.
Okay.
And then we can talk about everybody else in the AFC.
Baltimore, Cincinnati, Chargers. Are the Colts there?
I mean, are the Browns in that mix with the Mayfield injury? I think that puts that in flux. I felt pretty firmly that the Browns were a playoff team in August.
I'm trying to think in the
Raiders.
The AFC.
It's a lot more easy to identify the great teams in the NFC because the Rams, the Packers, the Bucks, the Cardinals, they all look really good.
Well, I thought
Cowboys.
Collinsworth made a good point yesterday when he was talking about the NFC, where he was just saying, look, in the NFC, the teams that are elite, there's a couple of them, and they're really good. The AFC just has a much softer middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the AFC and the Colts are in that softer middle. They're not in the bottom tier, and they're not in the top tier, but that middle right there,
the Patriots.
When the Colts play well, they're pretty good, right?
But you could say that about New England and Las Vegas and Cleveland and, umpteen other different teams. Baltimore is one that I'm having a lot of trouble figuring out.
I think Baltimore's pretty good.
I think Baltimore's good too, but, God, they were horrible yesterday.
Derek, I think Cincinnati's pretty good.
We'll see.
I'm not sold.
I don't disagree with that. I think they've proven that they're pretty – they could very easily be 6-1 if they had a kicker that could make a kick against Green Bay.
Is Pittsburgh in that same category as the Colts?
No, I don't. Well, yes, in the Colts.
Right.
I don't think Pittsburgh is like a true contender or anything like that. They have too many flaws.
But the reality is this. The Colts have a huge game upcoming against the Tennessee Titans that they essentially have to get, not only to keep themselves within striking distance of the division, but they basically have to get it also to stay within that wild card conversation. And I personally think the Colts are going to win. I think the Colts are going to win.
Need it. Every game is critical in the AFC. I don't think they absolutely have to have it to win the wild card. Their schedule still softens up here. But, yeah.
It does.
It would be nice to have the win.
What
get back to 500.
Indianapolis has to do to get a playoff berth, whether that be the wild card or if they are able to pull a rabbit out and win the division still. What they absolutely put themselves in position now where they emphatically have to do is win every 50-50 game. There is no margin for error. Do they have margin for a couple of games where you say, yeah, that's going to be a tough one? Sure. Okay, maybe one or two of those. A home game is not one of them. They got to win the games they're supposed to or are 50-50 games. This is one of them, okay? What they're going to need is multiple areas where they can effectively move the ball offensively, and that includes, of course, we know what Jonathan Taylor can do, but, Derek, there is an emerging weapon for the Colts, and that takes us to our Indiana Members Credit Union player of the game from the game in San Francisco.
I think it was pretty easy to say Michael Pittman Jr. would be the player of the game. He had the game-clinching touchdown grab, and also he just mossed guys out there on Sunday night.
Mossed?
Yeah.
Is that a Randy Moss term?
You haven't heard of this? Yeah, when you look at that picture. When you jump over a guy like that, you mossed him. Yeah. Which is what I used to do in rec basketball until everyone else had their growth spurt and then I didn't. I used to just routinely moss people. I always felt very confident that Michael Pittman was going to be a good NFL player.
Did people need a growth spurt to get to 5'3"?
He's starting to show now that he can be a very good to great NFL player. People want to say, well, he's the number one right now. I'm not ready to go there yet, but he looks the part. Ascending that way for sure.
Well, what he has And I had said this was going to take time. But one thing that Michael Pittman has now is a chemistry, it would appear, with Carson Wentz, where there's
And
a trust.
Yeah.
Right. And Carson Wentz afterwards, when Michelle Tafoya said, how confident are you in throwing that ball? And he said, do you see the guys I'm throwing to? That's a huge thing for him to say. I thought it spoke well of Carson Wentz because he knows in that situation what he's doing is building up that continued confidence in his receiver, showing it, and that's going to carry over into the receiver having confidence with him. Same kind of confidence you can have, Derek, if you become an Indiana Members Credit Union customer and banking
Absolutely,
customer.
yeah. Free checking accounts. Also, low auto rates you can get, e-statements, and more. You can see what IMCU can do for you at imcu.com.
That's Indiana Members Credit Union, IMCU.com.
Federally insured by NCUA. By the way, people know that you're watching on like an antenna, so you're ahead of everybody else, right?
I do not watch on an antenna.
When you do the...
I don't. I'm totally serious. I watch on you can call it Shannon right now.
Your feed is ahead by...
It is not.
Yeah, 30 to 45 seconds.
I'll tell you what. The next game,
you did that twice with turnovers, and they literally happened in 30 seconds after you tweeted that.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
Because I've watched games on antennas before.
You can. Who has an antenna?
I have an antenna in my basement.
I have.
Jordan has an antenna.
I have, just like the people watching this, I have Comcast Xfinity cable.
Yep.
You can come to Shannon's house for the next game and sit next. No, you're not doing that.
You've never, ever invited me. I will take you up on that offer.
No.
I will happily
You're
watch
not-
a game
no,
with you.
Sorry, it's her house.
Do you want me to bring snacks?
No. That's definitely not going to happen. I will
Cheetos?
FaceTime you during the game, and you will see that her feed is the exact same as yours.
Look,
It is not hard to figure out when things are
I
going to
don't
happen.
mean to blow your cover. I don't want you to get all defensive. I didn't mean to like blow the illusion for everybody, but for people that don't know, Jake is watching on a feed that's ahead of everybody else.
I'm not.
So when he says,
I am not.
I smell a Colts turnover, and then it happens right away, people are like, oh my God, Nostradamus, and really he's just ahead.
Derek, wouldn't there be somebody out there that has the feed the same rate as mine? Do you think I called Xfinity and I'm like, can you just make mine go faster?
You know, and
you think I have no
you
neighbors?
love people, and I love people, but what do we know about people, especially on the internet? People can be really dumb.
Derek, there's not a single person that is
So
like, you know what, that's
they don't
happening.
even think of it.
But there's not a single person that's like, that's happening the same time
But
as
it's
me.
you, man. Like
I-
people that follow you, they just think
Put me-
you're the greatest. Like
Can you
you're
blame 'em?
unbelievable. Oh my God! Like let's bow to the altar of Jake and Hosanna, and you know it's
Hosanna.
you're almost like a deity to people. Honestly, at least IndyCar doinks you are.
Is Hosanna a song by Toto? All I want to do when I wake up in the morning is see.
Was that
your
Final
eyes.
Countdown?
No, that's Final Countdown was Europe. Rosanna, Rosanna.
I don't know that one.
I'm telling you right now, put a lie detector test on me right now. In no way,
You'd find a way to beat it.
shape, or form is my television feed
You're ahead.
any faster than anyone else.
Nick Yeoman knows it.
No.
Ravensdale knows it, and I know it.
Okay.
You're watching
You
it
guys
down
can
there.
put me on a lie detector test. Speaking of
There's
the
some other
NFL and
questions
around
I'd
the
ask
league.
you if I had you hooked to a lie detector
Oh, really?
that aren't related to watching a Colts game on ahead.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Nothing.
Okay.
We've hung out a lot in the last 10 years. There have been a lot of things that went on that I want some answers for.
Okay. Speaking of answers, you had a question you said about something that I had said previously in this program's history about Steph Curry, and you think it might parlay over to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, unlike the game feed thing, this is something that you're not lying about that I really do think was a good thing that you kind of came up with that I originally scoffed at years ago, 5-6 years ago, but is now coming to fruition with a different formerly beloved athlete. And we'll get into that. Also, college football wrap-up and Pacers opening week thoughts. We got a lot to get to. Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Stick around.
It is not.
How are you?
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Meet Kate. She has a lot to juggle. Family, work, it can lead to trying days and tired nights. But we know Kate, and at Indiana Members Credit Union, we know at some point her space at a premium life may change. IMCU is here to help Kate and you find your space. Now, add on or remodel with an introductory rate of 1.9% APR on a home equity line of credit. Today, it's all about Kate. Tomorrow, it's all about you. Because at IMCU, it's you that matters.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. You know, the Colts 49ers game was one of those primetime games where you might have been thinking to yourself, you know, I just spent 3 hours watching a football game here at night. I wonder what other things I could do when I find the downtime at night. What about continue your education? Or perhaps just simply return to school, whether it is that you have a college degree that you've left on the table, or it might be that you've just always dreamed of being a college graduate and life got in the way, whatever it may be. Maybe you're even 18 years old and now is the time, but you want to do some work and stay at home for a bit as well. WGU Indiana is the place for you. Ambition never rests. WGU is aware of that, so why not go to school on your schedule, your time? WGU is Indiana's largest online accredited university, wgu.edu/Indiana, and of course, they also bring us and this is him right here. Woo-hoo. I'll tell you who. That's Sage, the fabulous mascot of WGU Indiana, because, Derek, as you know, owls are not only nocturnal, but their head is constantly revolving. They have their eyes are always on the prize, right?
Creepiest thing
Ambition
that any
never
animal on the
rests.
planet can do. They can turn their head around the entire direction.
But it's perfect. It's a perfect mascot for WGU because no matter where your eyes are, you can always have it on the ultimate goal, which is a college degree. Again, wgu.edu/Indiana. They bring us, by the way, our Sage Move of the Week. And before we get into the talk about Steph Curry, I'm going to say, and it will get into our Pacers conversation, for me, the Sage Move of the Week, I'm going to go with basketball, Derek. And Rick Carlisle, even though it's by necessity because Kyrus LeVert is not there, and we'll talk more about the Pacers upcoming. But Chris Duarte is really good. This guy's a really good, mature basketball player. And the Pacers' not only decision to draft Chris Duarte, but then also almost without necessarily by design, I watched very closely Chris Duarte against the Miami Heat in the Pacers' first win of the year. And the other players kind of sit back and defer to him on the wing. And he has a natural leadership presence when the ball's in his hand and he's telling guys where to go, keeping him in the game late in games in key moments for the Pacers, and riding his maturity, even though he's a young player, he's not a young person. Riding his maturity and believing in him, drafting him, and putting him into the Pacers franchise by Kevin Pritchard and Rick Carlisle, to me, Sage Move of the Week.
Yeah, he's extremely polished.
He is.
But we kind of knew that going in. I defended the pick from the people that didn't want the old guy because I thought Duarte brought to the table exactly what the Pacers were looking for, and he has so far. I mean, 3 games is a really small sample size. I get where fans are coming from, where it's hard to get excited about a 24-year-old who had drawn NBA comps to, like, maybe he can be Doug McDermott. And you're
Right.
like, okay. I think his ceiling is much higher than people thought it was going to be kind of going in. But just the fact that he can shoot and defend, and you could plug him in right away. I was going to snap, and I'm not going to snap. You could plug him in right away, and then he's going to click like that.
Look, frustrating buzzword
It
here,
works.
annoying buzzword, but he has an extremely high basketball IQ.
Yeah.
He just has a really good presence of what's going on around him.
And for those that don't know, I mean, Jake, you saw this up close and personal because for the home opener, you were in a leather recliner courtside. So that's where Jake watches
not a recliner.
Pacers games from his throne.
It's not
King
a
of the castle. Yes, this is Chris Duarte. Yes, he looks pretty
not
good.
a recliner.
Eats caviar and sips on whatever.
Don't like caviar.
Yeah.
I did have sake the other night for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I like it. Very smooth.
I'm not a big. I had a bad experience with vodka when I was like 15, so I don't ever want to like
You should've.
those kind of alcohols. I don't like.
You should have.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
Not that you should ever do that. You should never
breaking the laws.
never do that. Oh, it's like a long, long time ago, man.
I'm just telling you.
I was a busboy at a high-end restaurant. They had a liquor room.
Okay.
We did trash runs at the end of the night. It's just sitting right there. The restaurant doesn't exist anymore.
Did you recycle?
Too much lost money, apparently.
Did you recycle?
With the bottles?
No, the vodka.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, Christmas Eve night. Yeah, 98.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
my
Merry
cousins
Christmas
were
to you.
there. It was rough.
So what were you thinking about Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes?
Well, really what I kind of thought about that was, and I took kind of creative license with this. You didn't actually call it the Steph Curry theory, but I just really think you hit the nail on the head, which is rare that happens where Jake is so right about something. But back in like I don't even remember what specific year it was, 2014, 15, when the Warriors were ascending and they were becoming this dynasty, and Steph Curry was this beloved figure. I don't even know how we got on the topic of it, but you had mentioned on our old radio show, oh, well, in 2 years, people will turn on him, and people are going to get sick of Steph Curry. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, everybody loves Steph Curry. Look, he's a nice-looking guy. He's real fun to watch. And they came for Steph Curry. People went after him. Remember, he's never won Finals MVP and, all this other stuff for Steph Curry. Patrick Mahomes, I think you're starting to see kind of the same thing. He's struggling. 11 turnovers in 7 games, which is wild to think. God, the Chiefs are they 2-4 or 3-4? They have a losing record, whatever it is. I'm not sure if they've had the bye yet or not. I'd have to go back and look. But I saw in my mentions yesterday, somebody made a tweet comparing Wentz to Mahomes and criticizing, and I didn't really agree with the tweet. But I hopped on the thread, and because the original tweet went viral, I saw all of the responses. So my entire Twitter inbox yesterday afternoon was people like, no one's ever going to criticize Mahomes because they're biased towards their golden boy. And I was like, damn, like they're really coming for Patrick Mahomes. I didn't think that was going to happen so quickly.
Here is what, to me, is really interesting about Patrick Mahomes, Derek, and the Kansas City Chiefs. If you go back and look at Peyton Manning and the way the Peyton Manning teams were built in Indianapolis, when Peyton Manning was drafted, the Colts basically were left with, they had Torrance Small, and Marvin Harrison was out with a shoulder injury. And they had E.J. Green, and they had Jerome Pathon, Ken Dilger.
This is taking
and
me
he
back,
did have
these
Marshall
names.
Faulk.
Yeah.
And then that was transitioned into a young Edgerrin James. And then they had a healthy Marvin Harrison, and Reggie Wayne took a year to get going. Okay? The Colts had enough body of work from Peyton Manning to be able to see, okay, Manning is a great enough quarterback that he lifts other players and everyone's game elevates because he is on the field. So they knew that, right? They could get away with having some average players sprinkled in and hidden because Manning masked it. When Patrick Mahomes took over the Chiefs, they had elite-level players already offensively at every position. They had an elite tight end. They had dynamic slot guys. They had an elite-level, game-changing guy that can come out of the backfield. They had great players all the way around. And Patrick Mahomes is a wonderful talent. But he was airdropped into a situation where you didn't know for certain whether or not he could elevate average players. He comes in, he's dynamic, he is game-changing, he's groundbreaking. They give him a boatload of money. Now, all of a sudden, they've got to round out the rest of their roster. And as players have either left, become injured, or had other issues, they are now being tested to find out whether or not he is, in fact, a guy that makes the average Blair White, the average Ben Hartsock, the average Joseph Mungro or James Mungro look elite. And so far, he's not doing it. And they have all of their money invested in Mahomes, and they have a particular challenge, notably with their defense, of spending money to get defensive players because their defense is averaging 7 yards per play, and they don't have the money to spend because they put it all in one basket. It is the ultimate conundrum in the NFL, and I'm fascinated how it plays out for Kansas
But he's still
City.
26 and has this huge window, right?
He's a great player.
I think what
But he's already committed, Derek, contractually for huge salary
the
cap
problem
implication.
that we have, I mean, I'd still sign that contract every single day of the week because you lock him in for 10 years, and we see quarterback windows can extend well past his mid-30s,
That's
right?
fair.
But I think what we're seeing is that we've almost like artificially convinced ourselves into believing that what Brady and Belichick did in New England is possible for everybody else, and it's not.
Right.
It's an aberration. So we think, okay, well, Mahomes is elite, so that means the Chiefs are just going to be great for the next decade because Brady and Belichick and the Patriots were. It doesn't work that way. You know, even the Colts, for all those great seasons with Manning, they ended up with one championship. Even the multiple championship teams, the Steelers and Giants, they disappeared in the other years. Like, the Giants didn't even win a playoff game around those other Super Bowl wins, and the Steelers missed the playoffs entirely for a couple of those years. So it's just so hard to do, this assumption that the Chiefs were just going to be great forever. You know, I fell trapped to that too, Jake. Like, I thought to myself, oh, this is definitely going to be a dynasty.
Right.
And there's just going to be ebbs and flows.
And the NFL is obviously set up where you have – that's why it was so impressive the Colts were able to win 12 games year in and year out, because it is set up for you to not be able to do that. The schedule changes, the where you're drafting, and then the salary cap itself. There are a lot of issues that are facing the Kansas City Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes, because he's the big-ticket guy, that is going to fall now on Patrick Mahomes.
Rodgers and the Packers, they haven't even been back to a Super Bowl since they won one.
He looks good, though.
It's crazy to think about. Well, yeah, I mean, again, that's a big window.
You know what, actually, even after, like Patrick Mahomes yesterday, I mean, he got worked by the Tennessee Titans, right? After a workout, Derek, you know what's outstanding?
What's that, chocolate milk?
Chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Do you have the milk facts?
I do not.
They're right over there next to you.
Oh, yeah, in this folder that you doodled on, this is my folder.
The American Dairy Association of Indiana brings us each and every week our
What did you do to this?
Winners
All the
Drink
papers
Milk.
are ruffled.
What's that?
All the papers are ruffled.
Winners Drink Milk, winner of the week. By the way, Derek, when I was in Los Angeles, if you go to the Super Bowl and you go to SoFi Stadium, is that what it's called?
SoFi.
SoFi, whatever it's
Yeah.
called. That stadium, which is right across from the Forum, the Great Western Forum in Inglewood. So it's like a triangle. Here's the big new stadium. Here's the Great Western Forum, and then there's a cemetery. In that cemetery is the final resting place of Louis Meyer. Louis Meyer, Indianapolis 500 champion, and the first to drink an ice-cold bottle of buttermilk after the Indy 500, which is the tradition there that winners drink milk. And winners do drink milk, and after a good workout, they could drink chocolate milk, which has, Derek, more vitamin A than?
Then a heating and air conditioning. No, that's Love That Play. Then a boiled egg.
Okay.
Wait, what did you ask me?
Vitamins.
Vitamins. Has more vitamin A than, 2 hard-boiled eggs.
Okay.
Yep.
It also eclipses spinach in one area, right?
What is this? You just signed your name a bunch of times on here. Like
That's
in
what I
a
do.
row.
I doodle.
Well, you scribbled on everything, so it's really hard for me to see any of this. Are you guys looking at this? Like,
Derek,
what is this?
There are phone numbers written on there, I think.
Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can make out everything else that's on
You know that we're supposed to keep this flowing, right?
10 cups of raw spinach, as much calcium, and there's
as much
another
calcium
one.
as 10 cups
as much
of
potassium as a banana.
Okay, so potassium of a banana,
500 grand.
as much calcium.
Is that your IndyCar salary?
What's it? Yeah, how'd you know?
It says 500 grand right here, somewhere down here, and it's circled a bunch of
doodling
times.
notes.
I mean,
Can you read them
when
one
you
more
need
time?
when you have those Pacers courtside seats, 500K is really not that much. That's throw around money.
When it comes to a recovery drink, nothing's better than ice-cold
Go up to
chocolate milk.
Geist
Low-fat
with the
chocolate
500
milk
grand.
is nature's recovery drink for athletes. That's correct. With a perfect mix of carbs and protein that helps rebuild muscles and restore fluids and electrolytes.
It's good.
Winners drink milk from
I
the
feel
American
my
Dairy
fluids
Association of
being
Indiana.
restored as we speak.
Who I'm sure are thrilled
Delicious.
that they signed up for that fluid piece. Mm-hmm. Okay, Derek, who is our winner of the week?
How about the Braves? They had not been back to the World Series since 1999. Just kind of weird for me to think about. There are probably examples like this, Jake. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Nebraska football would be like this for you. But I feel weird saying that because Nebraska extended into the 90s. Who would be somebody that you grew up with in the 70s? Or DePaul basketball.
DePaul's a good
right?
one.
That just kind of, it just faded up for them. And I don't want to make it too extreme with the Braves because the Braves have still had some good teams in that span. But when I was a kid, man, they were in the World Series every year. Like 90, 92, 95, 96, 99. I'm actually missing one. 91, did they go? They went 5 times.
Yeah, they went 91. They went with
Lost to the Twins?
right?
Yeah. Okay, so 91, 92, 95 was the one that they won against the Indians, and then they
This World
eviscerated by the Yankees in '99.
I agree. And although I will say this, I was stunned. I didn't know they're still doing the tomahawk chop.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying it from a PC standpoint.
Well, and
as
they
much
brought
just
back
a played out standpoint.
that
right?
country music doink. They brought him back to do the national anthem.
Doink.
Yeah, that what's his name? Kenny Tritt.
Travis Tritt?
Travis Tritt, that's what it is.
Okay.
Sorry, the country music stuff is not my wheelhouse. But he was this big, like, if you got to get it vaccinated, then I'm not even going to show up to do the concert. And we're like, wait, you're still around? And then they invited him back to sing the anthem, which can't possibly be a coincidence. You wouldn't have done that unless you had a statement to say. But, yeah, you know, whenever you tell people they can't do something, they want to dig in, and I think that's just the fan base kind of digging in with that.
But
I think it's still a really likable team for whatever it's worth.
I just think this World Series to me is very meh.
Yeah, the Astros again. You know, I get it.
Okay.
They won 88 games this year, but it's kind of a cool story because you lose your best player in July.
Coming off of the scandal, they are, you know, they've kind of vindicated themselves, right? Of like, hey, we didn't need.
Oh, the Astros?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but here's the thing about the cheating scandal with the Astros, and I get people are upset about this. That team is stacked. I mean, that team is ridiculous, and they had a wave of guys after Altuve and everybody else that have come, Correa and everybody else that have come in and been great players too. They had a next wave of stars. I mean, Houston is really, really good. Did they cheat? Yeah, probably. But I don't even know if they needed to.
I'm happy for Paul the Mailman, show contributor Paul the Mailman, Paul Hurley, lifelong Braves fan because of Superstation TBS.
Oh, I thought he was, and he was a Milwaukee guy
my buddy
originally,
Tom
right?
Stallings. No, Paul's Southport guy.
Oh, I'm thinking of Paul Hoffman is a Braves fan that was originally a
And
Milwaukee
my buddy
guy.
Tom Stallings in Jacksonville, diehard Braves fan. So
My buddy Nick Jones, Little Dave, big Braves fan.
Yeah. Dave by the Bell, right?
Yeah, there are a bunch of others. Zach Osterman of the Star, who's from Atlanta.
By the way, how little is Little Dave if you call him Little Dave?
Well, Little Dave is only Little Dave because we had a friend, Big Dave. And Big Dave was 6'4". So Little Dave is actually a couple of inches taller than me, but he's little compared to Big Dave.
Your thoughts on the Pacers?
I've mostly been encouraged. Their issues are still their issues. Defensively, they've got a long way to go. But we knew this wasn't going to be a finished product right away. They've got some progress to make with the new head coach and some new pieces to fill in. They very easily could have won either of their first two games that they dropped. They could be 3-0. They could be 0-3.
Derek, I think that Rick Carlisle, as the season goes on, he likes to tighten his rotation. I think what he's doing now is figuring out and getting a really good look at who he wants as the – I mean, we know that Domas Sabonis, Miles Turner, Malcolm Brogdon, you know, we know those guys.
Duarte,
you know, what do you do when Karis LeVert comes back? I mean, Duarte is going to be your sixth man, I guess, but I'm telling you, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to keep him off the floor. I'm telling you. But, you know, guys like Brissett.
I hope they find a spot for him because I think he brings
guys,
a lot to the table.
He does. There are guys like that, you know, do they fit in the rotation? I think he's figuring those things out, and so those guys are getting significant minutes, and it just will be – it'll be tightened up towards the second half of the year. But it's going to take them 20-25 games to figure out who they are.
What sucks, Jake, is that I think people want to evaluate NBA games like they do NFL games. There's only 17 NFL games. There are 82 freaking games, man.
You're right.
We're going to be playing these games into mid-April. We've got a whole winter and the holidays and a new year and St. Patrick's Day, all that crap still to go.
Tyler Hero's really good.
Yeah. I just
Speaking
think
of the Pacers, that's who they played.
We have to kind of let this play out. Like, people want to overreact after two games. I'm like, they're 2 of 82, for God's sake. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
My bar's pretty low for the Pacers, admittedly, this year. But I think they can – I'm really excited about Duarte. And Carlisle knows what he's doing, so I'm confident in him.
Coming up next, it's Love That Play, as well as a look at college football. Rough weekend. What's that look?
I think Ohio State is still scoring touchdowns.
Ohio State just scored again.
Yeah. And Wisconsin just ran for another first down.
But we will get to that, along with Love That Play next.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Rolling right along here on this Monday edition of Corey and Schultz here on IC Sports Network. I guess every show is a Monday edition. That's kind of an old radio thing for me.
You want to start that over?
Monday edition, Tuesday edition, Wednesday edition.
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous.
Remember we used to play Bang on the Drum on Mondays? I miss that. We'd put that in the intro. That was great.
I did drive over the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco for the IndyCar race with Alex Wolff and Michael Young and blared We Built This City.
Hell yeah.
From Starship.
Yeah, that's a great one, too.
Felt
That's
like we
just
were
a great song.
inside the Colts locker room. It's
Yeah.
terrible. It's the worst song
It's
ever
an
made.
amazing song.
No, it's the worst song ever made.
No, this is like your Saved by the Bell take. You're completely off.
Okay.
Completely.
You know what I'm not wrong about? The fact that your kitchen looks fabulous from Chateau Kitchen.
It does, and our guest bathroom is about to look fabuloso. Actually went to go pick out tile with Megan, who is our designer for our project. She's been with us the whole way. Really awesome and picks out great designs. We're pretty easy to appease type people. We're kind of low maintenance when it comes to all of that.
Like me.
But we need, But we need some help, Ash and I do, in picking things out. And she's been awesome throughout this process. And then when the project actually gets going, we'll have a project manager that oversees the actual construction
I'm wearing the hat.
and putting everything
You're
together.
the one
But
getting the new.
Chateau Kitchens is just they're the best. I mean, everybody that we plug on the show that partners with us really is the best. Chateau has just been life-changing
You know
for
what,
us with
Derek, let me
the
tell you
projects
what
that
would
they've
be-
done.
I'm not necessarily thrilled about coming to your home, but if I was coming to your home, the best thing about it is we could sit in your beautiful Chateau Kitchen and enjoy ourselves some takeout smoke and barrel barbecue, right?
Oh, are we going to merge these here?
This is what I do.
We can.
Smoke and barrel barbecue, which is on the east side of Indianapolis, right?
That's right. German Church Road.
Absolutely fabulous.
It is. Really, really good. Mac and cheese, great sides, brisket tacos,
Brisket taco
burnt
sounds
ends,
wonderful.
and all the usual fare that you get barbecue-wise. But the best barbecue that I've ever had, certainly in
Look,
Indianapolis.
barbecue's a competitive deal, right? Everybody's trying to do barbecue. But how do you make it since 2016, 5 years running with barbecue? Simple. Great recipe, like Derek mentioned, great menu, but also family-owned and operated.
Yeah, Mike and CJ. They're great. Go see them over on German Church Road, and you can order online. Smokin' with no G, SMOKIN -barrel 1L -bbq.com. Also, Chateau Kitchens at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook, and online in their showroom up there on Carmel Drive.
Derek, I had said when they lost to Oregon, don't worry about it if you're an Ohio State fan. The Buckeyes are for sure going to waltz right into the college football playoff, and here it is. They probably are the second best team in the country right now, behind only Georgia. Alabama's in the mix, I guess, but it's coming down. I think it's becoming very clear here. The college football playoff, Oklahoma's going to stub their toe. It's going to end up being unbeaten out of the Big Ten, and by that I mean unbeaten within the conference. Ohio State, who just lambasted Indiana, Georgia, Alabama, and I do think Cincinnati, because I think Oklahoma's going to stub their toe. But let's begin with this with Ohio State and Indiana. And I am hesitant to say this because I think he's a wonderful guy. But I'm curious. I'm not saying – I'm just curious of this question. His buyout, his job is not in jeopardy at all. nor is it going to be in jeopardy anytime soon because the buyout for Tom Allen is $30 million. Fourth highest buyout in college football, I believe, or top 5 highest. Is Tom Allen's seat, because so much expectation was there for Indiana this year, are there going to become whispers among the Indiana fan base that this is Tom Crean with better public relations?
I mean, is there going to be discontent with Indiana's season going? Like, if Indiana has a 3-9 season, is there going to be discontent? Yes. Is his seat going to be warm? No. At least not yet.
Not from his bosses, but from the fan base. Is his seat going to be warm?
Yeah, because people expect you to keep climbing the rungs of the ladder, and this would be basically falling off the ladder and breaking your elbow, like I did as a painter over the summer when I was trying to power wash a window and I fell backwards.
Was
off
it
the
the
ladder.
nicotine buzz?
That was Joe Capuano and Sons. That was actually a little bit more than a nicotine buzz that was going on when we work on those crews.
Oh, really? Like, what do you mean?
Like, what will we do in the morning before we go and paint all day?
Yeah.
You want me to say it on the air?
Yeah,
I guess it's basically been decriminalized now, so you don't have to worry about it as much. But 20 years ago, it was still maybe kind of frowned upon.
Okay. And you were...
Well, it's nice. It was a nice summer day. You're up on a roof and painting pretty colors. It was nice to, beforehand sit in the car for a little bit and then go over to the job.
Okay. All right. So anyway, as you were saying about
yeah, what were we talking about? We're talking about Tom Allen.
I just think, look, there was and the same is true in West Lafayette. There was an expectation heading into the season that there was going to be a step forward. And in Indiana's case with Tom Allen, no doubt about the fact that the profile of the program has elevated.
Recruiting
is really elevated. So it's maybe unfair, but I just think this year, I will be honest, from a schematic standpoint and from a execution and just looking prepared standpoint, Indiana has flat missed the boat this year. I think they look unprepared. They don't look well coached.
Yeah.
They look undisciplined, and they don't have great coordinators. And the coordinators are ultimately the hire of the coach.
They've played 5 brutal games. They've
No
been
doubt about that.
competitive in 1.5 of them.
Correct.
They were competitive for a half against Cincinnati, and then they got run off the field. And they were competitive against a Michigan State team that, no offense, I know their record is what it is. Michigan State is not close to being an elite team.
Right.
That was a game that they should have won. So I feel bad, Jake, because I never use Ohio State is an auto loss. Ohio State, to me,
You're right.
is I can never mentally process Indiana beating Ohio State because I don't know if it's ever going to happen in my lifetime. I really don't. So I never use that game to judge. But it's not the fact that Indiana has been beaten in these games. It's that they weren't competitive against Iowa, they weren't competitive against Ohio State, and they weren't competitive against Penn State. And that's not good enough. So you can sit here and say schedule strength, injuries, schedule strength. There's no reason for me to believe that Indiana's going to beat Minnesota.
Right.
Or go to Purdue and win. There's really can they win those games? Yeah, sure they can. But there's not really reason right now to think that they're going to go and do that.
Now, in the case of Purdue, I remember, and I had made reference to it, and people killed me for it, probably rightly so, that whenever I think of Purdue, Wisconsin, I think of the Kyle Orton fumble.
Ugh.
I just do automatically.
Brutal.
But that year, the Kyle Orton fumble, everybody was so excited because it was like Purdue is ranked in the BCS rankings. Holy cow. And then
they were number 5, I think.
Yeah, and then boom, right?
Yeah,
done.
College Game Day was there.
Everything went downhill after that fumble. This week, everybody was super excited because Purdue was ranked in the top 25. They're 24th in the country. They come out, and Wisconsin just controlled that game.
Graham Mertz stinks. You have to make him throw. He only had to throw 8 times because they ran for 287 yards. And look, we can make this about the defense. The defense wasn't great on Saturday. Purdue's defense this season has been very good. Their offense, if you're going to score 13 points, you're not beating anybody.
Yeah.
You're going to score 13 points every week, you're not going to beat anybody. You can beat UConn like that. You can beat, some middling MAC school like that. You're not going to beat a Big Ten.
Middling MAC school.
You're not going to beat a Big Ten opponent like that. And they keep the most disappointing thing, I think, of the Jeff Brom era thus far is that they still just haven't really figured it out offensively. Like, he's putting up these video game numbers at previous stops, and he's obviously a gifted offensive mind. Like, is it the quarterbacks that are holding them back? Is it the constant revolving door there? I don't know, really. But this has been Purdue's MO, where they randomly, out of nowhere, beat these elite teams, and then they come crashing back down to earth some other point. So, look, the bar for me for Purdue was bowl eligibility. It was much lower than the bar for Indiana going into the season, which was a preseason top 20 team. Purdue is still in line for that. Like, I'm not crushed by this. I think some people like Reese Davis had Purdue in his Big Ten championship. I think people got way ahead of themselves with that win against Iowa. And maybe we did a little bit on the show too. I still think Purdue's target is right in front of them. For Indiana, even bowl eligibility at this point feels like a pipe dream.
It's going to be a challenge, yep. We come back, buy it or bowl Schultz, and love that play as we put a bow tie on it here. Episode number 58, Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Schultz, final time here on ISC Sports Network. Thanks for watching us on ISC. Maybe you're watching on Comcast 81 or on our YouTube channel, Corey and Schultz, youtube.com/Corey and Schultz.
You want to watch the Colts take on the Tennessee Titans? You want to watch Indiana or Purdue in action? You want to watch the Pacers? Whatever it might be, Derek. Only Indy Tickets is the only place to get your tickets for all of those events, correct?
It's your ticket to what's happening in Indianapolis. And they had a great rate to get in the door against the Texans last week. They're going to have another one to get in the Titans this week. Unfortunately, it's not going to be as low probably as the Texans game because this is a huge showdown between – it's always been a two-team race in the AFC South, but if the Colts are going to keep that alive, that's what they're going to have to do.
It's a great-looking logo.
OnlyIndyTickets.com. And it's not just sports, Jake. Concerts – so you're doing something on, what do they call in the White River State Park dealio, the concert venue?
The Lawn.
It's got a name, right?
The Lawn.
Yeah, but there's like a sponsor, isn't there?
It's a Lawn.
SoFi, is that? They seem to be sponsoring
SoFi,
everything else. You know, those, but the Murad.
I like this. I like
Deer Creek.
It's a clean-looking logo.
It is. It's sharp. Anything else in Indianapolis, concerts or sports-wise, Pacers, of course, that they've got going on. Check them out. OnlyIndyTickets.com.
And if you, no matter what event it might be that you're going to, if you get your tickets from Only Indy Tickets, you go to that event, it's very possible that you might see the play that becomes our Love That Play. What exactly is Love That Play, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Love That Play is brought to you each and every week by the great guys at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Love-HVAC.com is their website. That's love-HVAC.com. Been around for over 100 years, since 1920. 317-353-2141. That's 317-353-2141. Not going to lie to you. I don't know if that was their number in 1920. I think in 1920, when your air conditioner went out, you stepped outside and you said, "Hey, Love, air conditioner." And they came over and did it.
That was like the wooden thing, right? Where you put the earpiece up.
That's what it was. Yeah, they just yelled into it.
Fix my air
But
conditioning.
even then, Love Heating and Air Conditioning had 24-hour maintenance, fabulous product, and commitment to customer service. Derek, our Love That Play this week is?
This is such a dumb show, by the way.
What's a dumb show?
I was just thinking of myself acting out a 1920s telephone.
Can you do that again?
Hello. Wake Forest hung a 70-burg on Army. Now, they gave up 56 points. Did you see the tweet, by the way? I love it when people that have like 200 followers tweet something that's really great. Where somebody who, just some guy said, $800 billion spent on national defense, and this is what we get. And it's our Army giving up 70 points to Wake Forest. Wake Forest, kind of like Indiana, historically speaking, is one of the absolute worst major college football programs. They have one season with fewer than 4 losses since 1950. And it was when they won the ACC randomly in 2006. But they're 7-0. They're a game ahead thanks to NC State's loss in the ACC.
Coastal or Atlantic?
I think they're in the Atlantic.
Okay.
Clemson's in the Coastal, right, with Louisville?
Clemson's completely fallen off the map.
That league stinks.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame's actually benefited from that, honestly. But that league, like, NC State was 18th this week, and they lose to Miami. Like, we all know that Miami team's no good. And even this Wake Forest team, it's a cute story, but they needed overtime to beat Syracuse. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
But good for Wake. Good for the Deeks.
4-3 Clemson, buddy.
It's one of those schools that I've always felt like
Pitt
Wake Forest
is pretty good. Pitt is decent.
I think so. Wake Forest and Vanderbilt are two of those schools that I've never really felt like should have major athletics. They're elite universities, right? And private institutions. And Wake Forest has a good basketball history, and Vanderbilt basically has the baseball program, and that's it.
Yeah, you're right.
But the fact that they win in anything is astonishing.
I'll never forget in '87, Indiana won the national title. They only lost 4 games that year. They lost to Purdue at Purdue. They lost to Illinois at Illinois. They lost to Michigan at Michigan, and they lost Derek to Vanderbilt. Barry Goheen and Will Purdue.
That stupid floor that they have at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it was elevated.
I actually bought cigarettes in Winston-Salem, North Carolina for $1.60.
Why'd you buy them? They give them to you there.
Well, basically, yeah. We were picking up my buddy at Fort Bragg.
Derek's like, I don't even smoke. The price is just so great.
Well, I was smoking then. We were picking up my buddy Blake at Fort Bragg, who was a Green Beret, to go to spring break. And we were going to Myrtle Beach. And we stopped in Winston-Salem at a gas station, and cigarettes were $2 cheaper than they were in
Green
Indiana.
Berets get spring break?
He got discharged for the week, or was it like leave or something? I don't know. He was allowed to leave. We had to go, and they searched the car, and they said, "Is there anything that we need to know about?" And I said, "We have like a handle of whiskey and a carton of Camels that were back there, but there was nothing else, and some beach towels."
Okay.
Yeah, no drugs or anything or weapons.
You ready for Biter Bullschultz?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead. You know we do it, right?
I was actually hoping
that
you would start off Biter Bullboy, because I just noticed that I prepared everything else as I do for every single show, and you contribute nothing. I did not prepare a Biter Bullboy.
Okay, good.
I somehow left that blank.
So off the top of my head, I have to not only tell you that The Shop Indy, that's theshopindy.com, has fabulous T-shirts like the one I'm wearing of the Indianapolis, that is correct, American Beverage Company, Indianapolis ABCs of the Negro League. But the name, image, likeness shirts like David Bell right here, for example. They have Trace Jackson Davis, who, by the way, was just named a preseason first-team All-American in basketball this year. TheShopIndy.com is the website, 928 Broad Ripple Avenue, or in Clay Terrace. This is very simple. I make a statement. Derek says whether he buys it or he considers it to be Bullschultz, okay? So with that, Trace Jackson Davis as a preseason first-team All-American, Derek, is going to make for the state of Indiana not one but 2 schools out of Indiana that will make it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Buy it or Bullschultz?
I think we kind of alluded to this last week. I buy it. I think Indiana's going to be really good. I don't think they're going to be as good as Purdue, but I think they're going to be really good. Purdue is a Final Four threat. Indiana is a second weekend, would have to have a lot of things go right to get there kind of threat. But they have a lot of experience. The problem is that a lot of their experienced players haven't played together in games that have counted. So they're going to have to learn and do that together with a brand-new head coach. But I think Indiana's pretty loaded at the wing positions, and you've got a guy in Trace Jackson Davis. So, yeah, I think they could be a second weekend team. For Purdue, Zach Edey, the secret's starting to get out about him. He may be a dominant force this year that we haven't seen. I think he was pegged as being, this is like Matt Harms and Isaac Haas. No, this looks like a guy that's going to be way above those levels of centers for Purdue.
I agree. I think both of them go to the second week of the tournament. I think they are both Sweet 16 level teams. I think Purdue could be a Final Four team. Statement number 2. We now see that Jonathan Taylor has emerged, as we talked about, as certainly a top 5, maybe top 3 running back in the NFL. The creme de la creme benchmark is, without question, Derrick Henry. The two of them, in terms of their teams, see each other on Sunday. Jonathan Taylor will have more rushing yards against Tennessee than Derrick Henry does against Indianapolis on Sunday.
Ooh.
Bite or Bull Schultz?
I'm trying to think of how Tennessee is against the run because the Colts have been pretty good against the run. In fact, they were really good against the run last year. I'm going to say Bull Bleep because I think the Titans are going to win. So I would still think if the Titans are going to win, then you'd have to say Henry's going to outrush Taylor, right? Because that's going to be kind of their bread and butter. So I'll say Bull Bleep as much as I don't want to say it. It's hard for me mentally to take the Titans seriously. But I think that switch finally flipped for me this weekend. Like, this has been a process. The last 2 years, they've had good to very good teams, but now it looks like a really great team. So, I think Henry will get there. I'm gonna say Bull Bleep Taylor outrushing Henry.
Okay, question number 3. When it comes
What do you say to that, by the way?
What's that?
What do you say? I'm actually interested.
Henry outrushes.
Okay. Yeah,
Henry's
you love
really
Derek.
good.
You've always loved Derek Henry.
I do like him.
Yeah.
Question number 3. With Halloween upcoming, I believe it's Sunday.
It is.
Halloween. With Halloween upcoming, buy it or Bull Schultz. There is not a single candy worth having that comes inside of a wax paper wrap.
Ooh. Yeah. You're older than me considerably, so you have more experience with the wax paper candy than I do. For most of my life, I've had name brand
Okay, hold on.
candy.
Bit of honey?
Oh, that has wax paper, doesn't it? Yeah. What is that supposed to be? Bit of honey.
I think it's a honey taffy.
Butterscotch?
It's got a bit of honey in it, right? So
You would assume.
It's a
Or else
taffy.
that would be very misleading.
It's a taffy of some sort.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been a taffy person. I don't really like fudge. I like chocolate, but I don't really like fudge either. Not that you would get that on Halloween unless you knock on the door of some weirdo.
Okay, how about this? Buy it or Bull Schultz. There is not a single candy bar, every candy bar that has any sort of a variation of a Rice Krispie in it is fabulous.
So Nestle Crunch,
Crackle.
100 grand, Crackle. Ooh, this is going to be a strong agree. I'm trying to think of.
There's not.
I'm trying to think
Okay,
of a crispy
hold on.
chocolate bar that I don't like.
Chunky.
That has raisins, right?
But I think it also has the crackly in it.
I don't like raisins
Okay.
in my candy.
Okay.
Keep your fruit out of my candy. No coconut with a crispy one, right? Is there any crispy coconut
I don't think so.
ones?
You know what's an underrated candy bar? Have you ever had a bun? The vanilla or maple bun?
I have no idea what you're talking about. B-U-N?
Yes. It's made by that same like offshoot brand of candy bar that I think they also make like Zagnut.
Okay.
Not
No.
Cadbury, but one of those like weirder Leaf. I think Leaf is the brand or
Yeah.
one of those. You've never heard of you never had a bun bar?
No. I've never even heard of it.
We'll have to buy you a
The
bun.
two
They have
most-
maple and vanilla.
I don't even want to say underrated because people know that these exist, but I'm floored by the fact that 100 grands aren't everywhere. Like, that
Yeah,
is
they
an
are-
excellent candy bar.
It is good.
Like, who
good.
doesn't like those? The
Right.
caramel and everything else. And something else, and I get that there are people that don't like white chocolate. I love those Hershey's cookies and cream
Yeah, they're good.
chocolate bars. Really, really good.
They're good.
Yeah.
What about the Symphony?
I have heard of that, but what is
has-
in that? Is
well-
that like toffee?
Peanuts, I think. And okay, here's an underrated
I'm not
one.
a big peanut
Here's
guy.
a
I
really
like M&M
underrated. Let me
peanuts.
tell you a really underrated candy bar that I'd never had. And then one day I'm like, I'm going to buy one. And literally I took a bite of it and I'm like, wow, this is kind of a game changer. A Zero bar.
Marshmallow, though, right?
No,
Are you sure?
positive.
Does it have nougat in it?
It has,
I
well,
always feel weird saying
it's
that.
kind of like a fudge in the middle with caramel or caramel, depending on how exotic you want to be, and white chocolate.